Man, you watch that Warriors game last night?
I did.
So, look, I know that we're going to disagree about this right away, but I'm just going to hop right into it. I don't care if Curry traveled worse than he actually did. No official should make that call. No official should make that call in that moment. No one is paying to see a game officiated to the nth degree, and Mr. Referee was having a terrible night. It was a ticky-tack night from decision after decision after decision. And you let a galactic superstar take a game-deciding shot. That's how the league charges $2,000 for a courtside seat and looks for $50 billion in its next television contract. Clay did miss a wide-open look. I know that's not what sunk the Warriors, and Curry didn't even get the shot anywhere kind of near the rim. But I just hated that travel call in that moment. There were too many travel calls in that game last night.
Well, I'm mindful of the fact that Steve Kerr talks about traveling more than any other coach. So there's a little bit of, in my head anyway, a little bit of karma there. If you want to...
Careful what you ask for.
Yeah, because they got what they asked for. And truth is, NBA officials, and I think this is one of the weaknesses of the system, is that they're told at various times during the year, we want you to start emphasizing this call because things are getting a little lax. And I think it would be better if when they tell the officials that, they tell everybody that, including us. I mean, specifically you. We're going to clamp down on traveling for a while because you guys have been running loose with it. Or we're going to start calling the illegal screen because, we've been watching games and it's starting to get
right. The whole league's getting lazy in that department, so we're going to tighten up.
And given the number of travel calls last night, most of which were defensible, I thought, including the Curry call, I think if you're going to be preventive about what you're trying to do is you tell everybody ahead of time, we're going to call this. Make your adjustments now while you still can.
Had they had called the Curry travel last night routinely, James Harden has never been in an MVP conversation. The Houston Rockets never actually really would have happened. I mean, much like the Allen Iverson carry, it was allowed in a time, and then to disallow it, we would be literally rewriting the course of NBA history if you took a point of emphasis from this year and plopped it back into that year.
But it doesn't work that way because guys figure out different ways to cheat the system. That's part of being a professional athlete. Figure out what they're calling and then do something else that you don't think they're looking for. That's why there are memos during the year. I just think that if you're going to put the memo out where everybody could see it. It goes, okay, that's why they're calling 9 travels tonight because they told everybody ahead of time. And then nobody's got an excuse.
You see the Tom Haberstroh tweet about the frequency of calls? We'll get to it in a second because they went from we're going to make that travel call a little bit of a point of emphasis to making it a point of contention. So we're going to get into that in just a second, though. But you did say Steve Kerr has probably talked more about traveling than any other coach, and he was obviously talking about it as it related to Steph Curry last night.
Calls are calls, so some go your way, some don't. I guess the NBA is making an emphasis on plays like that. I don't know if it was a travel or not. I haven't seen it, but it's going to be really interesting to see. Like, if we're going to call that now, we got to call it all the time because it happens 30 times a game. Guys change pivot feet. So I'm really happy that the officials are going to emphasize it, but you got to be consistent with it.
Again, there were points and times where Luka got the exact same shot off or stepped into a three with an egregious stutter step that was not called on a night where there was so much emphasis in there. 10 traveling calls in the Warriors-Mavs game last night. The last time I saw 10 traveling calls in a basketball game, Teddy Valentine was working a Big Ten game between Northwestern and Minnesota. Like, that is a college traveling number. And thank God Teddy Valentine is out of the league because Teddy TV was a little bit too much. And
Teddy was great.
No, he wasn't.
No, he was fabulous.
Well,
he's exactly the guy you want in a big game.
I actually thought that Bob Knight was going to physically knock him out one evening that I was doing play-by-play for, as a student. By the way, Indiana, North Carolina tonight. I know everyone's making their plans around it. I know I certainly am. But we get back to what everyone cares about here. Here's Steph Curry, who basically said, did I travel? Yeah. but I should have gone to the rim.
A bang situation, dumb play by me to not take the layup. I got a little confused on what the time and score was, honestly. Went for the hero shot. I didn't think it was a travel to the point where you don't let the play run out, but who am I to say?
See, here's the thing. Who are you to say? You are an MVP? You're one of the most important players that has ever touched a basketball in the history of the sport. So who you are to say is someone who basically said, there's never been a player like me getting ticky-tack calls almost everywhere on the court at all times. He'll never say that out loud. He should never say that out loud. I'll say it out loud for him under the guise of, dude, I'm not a homer. I'm not complaining about calls, but Steph Curry is among the worst officiated superstars this league has ever freaking had who wasn't a center.
On the other hand, he's had 3 technicals in the last 3 weeks, so he's a troublemaker now and needs to be reined in.
Is he asking for it a little? Do you think
absolutely.
that's stirring the pot?
I think that he's the new Draymond. He's got 1 fewer technical than Steve Kerr. He's only 3 behind Draymond Green. He's on pace for 12. That's a Russell Westbrook number. He's a troublemaker. He needs to be stamped on.
At what point does he get conferred modern Rasheed Wallace?
No one can do that. They changed the rules, so it's literally impossible.
There's only one.
If you get to 30, you're suspended for like the rest of the year. You can't get to 41 or 44, which is the number he set.
Rasheed did for technicals what Wilt Chamberlain did for goaltending.
Yeah.
Got to change that rule.
Yeah. Well, he changed both of them. That's the most amazing thing about Chamberlain. He changed both goaltending rules.
Tom Haberstroh, by the way, 10 travels on just the Warriors-Mav games last night to prove that it is a point of emphasis around the league. Also last night, there were 6 traveling calls in the Knicks and Pistons game. There were 3 in the Clippers-Trailblazers game. There was an average of 6.3 travel calls per game last night. That is 5 times last season's average. That is 4 times this October's average. There's a bigger crackdown on traveling in the FBI, in the NBA, than the FBI ever cracked down on the mob. Last season, the NBA averaged 1.3 traveling calls per game. This October, it rose to 1.07 calls per game, 1.7 calls per game. This month, it's 3.5.
Well,
again, this has gone from a point of emphasis to a point of contention. And you don't take the ball out of Steph Curry's hand and turn around and charge television networks multi-billions dollars to run this. Nobody is there to see a whistle decide a game on something that over the course of the last 20 years of NBA basketball has just slid right under the radar.
Well, I mean, this is part of the conditions of work in the NBA. They do these memos every now and then for different stuff. I don't have a problem with it, but if you're going to do that, do it so that everybody knows it ahead of time. I mean, if Curry wanted to pitch a fit about the travel, he certainly could have, but he didn't, because I think he knows. I mean, when you have that many travels in a game, he's veteran enough to know this might be dodgy, and you just don't do it. And plus, he's the one who said, I should have gone to the basket anyway. So karma there too.